move to the next slide. So we will talk about the alignment awareness and education campaign. As you know, we finished all of their rules filing activities, including public comments. The final decision's been made and the rules are filed. So now we have a year ahead of us to prepare for the implementation of the refined rules. And this is what we would like to talk with you about today, how we are preparing for it. We also would like you to know that we are in direct communication with all of the main stakeholders, asking for their support in rolling out and implementing the awareness and education campaign. So then we will be ready, and all the providers will be ready, and all the licensors will be ready to start operating and providing compliance oversight based on the refined rules. So if we will go to the next slide, it's just a reminder that we're consistently collaborating with all of you and all of the stakeholders, and we're consistently looking at you, at the advisory committee, as well as all of the other communities to help us with the alignment process, and specifically in implementation of the refined licensing rules in August 2019, a year from now. Can we please move to the next slide? So we're looking at alignment process as a continuous quality improvement. So for us, it's kind of a formula of licensing, updated, refined regulations, early achievers, updated quality standards, and ECAP updated performance standards, and it's what brings the continuous quality improvement to our work as well as the work of the providers and the work of the whole field. So moving to the next slide, I would like to remind us all that we're still operating based on the same key principles that we've been operating for 3.5 years of the alignment process. It's quality, clarity, support, choice, and equity. And all of those principles with a center and focus on child outcomes continue to guide us as we're moving forward with implementation. So on the next slide, we would like to share with you our thinking about alignment message. And this particular alignment message is not focusing on the progression of quality and the whole progression of quality, but it's on alignment of the licensing rules. So we'd like to look at the WAC and think about how we can look at the regulations, and as we called it, Washington Code of Conduct or Code of Operations in licensing world. So how we look at it from the perspective of implementation, how we can translate it from the perspective of implementation. And this is kind of a creative way that we came up with. So W for well-informed, and A is for achievable, and C for the child focus. So we would like you to look at it and let us know if you have any comments, any suggestions, any edits, any reaction, any reflection toward this kind of message that we would like to bring to the community. On the next slide, we will talk more about components and the timeline and specifics of the campaign that we are prepping right now with our stakeholders, and I will ask Debbie to talk about it. Thank you, Debbie.
You bet. Good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining us today to walk through some planning and communication efforts that we're making to engage everyone, both internally and externally, into our alignment awareness and education campaign. So just as we talk through a little bit on our highlights of what we're working on now is to really focus on social media and communication blitz that will bring everyone to the direction of how we educate and get ourselves prepared for the updated rules. So really looking at a variety of communication efforts, Facebook posts, Twitter, and then even looking at postcard mail out or gov delivery listserv, ways that we can get the message out to provide not only the awareness of what's happening, but also a deeper dive education in 2019. One of the ideas that we thought would be important would be what we're calling video teasers. First one would be posted in October, and really doing some messaging about positive transition and how we're learning together. One of the big priorities that we have is really having learning environments for both providers and licensing staff together, and to really look at accomplishing how to do some real life strategies for what the rules might look like on the ground. So video teasers that are going to highlight those messages. We have one in October, November, and December, looking at how to prepare ourselves and also how to educate ourselves on the updates within the rules. So we will be doing that this fall, and are looking to do some filming probably in September to get those prepared for you all. The webinars that we have planned are really to inform on updates, highlights. We picked 3 particular topics. October would have professional development, but we also wanted to include a webinar in October for simple navigation, interconnectivity ideas, so that people understand not only how to use the rules, but how they're all connected. And it will be a pretty simple webinar, but one that might be helpful in particular for brand new providers coming into this work, to make sure they understand how to use the WAC, the Washington Administrative Code, in their daily work with children. In November, we'll be looking at an update webinar on environment. We'll be considering hot topics that came up with negotiated rulemaking, highlights on what those changes are looking like, and also connecting the familiarity of what rules are we following now, and transferring that knowledge over as well. And then December, a webinar interactions curriculum with the same focus, really making sure that we connect to what is known, but also give some highlights and awareness on what those updates are looking like. From January through July, we have what we're calling the deep dive education. So we will have a combination of efforts there, both e-learning opportunities as well as live classes. Again, our live classes, we want to open the doors and have both providers and licensing staff, our early achiever folks, our ECAP, really in the same room to have the learning community together. So looking at each month, and we will be rolling out just a visual to help so that people understand what contents are going to be delivered in particular months. So we have the e-learning, and we will also have live classes. We are also looking to do videography with our live classes, so that if people are not able to make those sessions, we will probably have 4 across the state each month for each topic for those live classes, but to capture our keynote speakers and making sure we put that in as an e-learning opportunity to make sure people can capture the learning as well if they can't make it there in person. The communication feedback loop is really very intentional to, one, get the questions coming to one place, and then also how to deliver those answers out. We're doing that in an internal effort as well as external to make sure that we're giving answers to everyone in a very intentional way with one message, and how to make that work for all. So we'll be getting you some more information on that. Again, just going back, follow up with the video teasers, we will continue to highlight these things in our video teasers to make sure people know where to go, whether it's links or the monthly calendar that will be coming out to make sure everybody is aware of what's coming ahead. And if you can, Suzanne, go ahead and go to the next slide. One of the important resources that we really wanted to make available for everyone is what we're calling the Alignment Awareness Guide. So this will be an online presence. It will be a growing document, but what it will capture is some 4 key components that we thought would be helpful for everyone as we're learning, and really giving a variety of learning styles and ways to get to information within this resource guide. So we've broken up into 4 different sections. We have the alignment section, education, communication, and resources. And if you go to the next slide, you can see a little bit more detail about what we'd like to include in the alignment overview. One of the important aspects that we really want to cover for people who may not be involved with negotiator rulemaking, or they're brand new into the early learning field, really trying to capture the history and the journey that we've been on the last 3.5 years, so that there's an understanding of not only the work that's been done, the community collaboration, what negotiator rulemaking was all about, so that someone can come to one place and really get the picture and the story of how we got to where we are. That would include, the partnerships with the progression, and then also the writing principles that we relied on for our rules. And again, a one-pager summary so that someone could do a quick snapshot if they didn't want to read that whole section, but to really give that overview so that people understand the work that's been done in the past. So you can go to the next slide. Section 2 is really an education overview. I talked earlier about the webinar with navigation and interconnectivity, really trying to line out the differences of the policy work, the implementation, or what that practice is, and then also how do you record that? How do you track the work that you're doing, and how all of those things are connected within our rules. Taking a look at, again, connecting the dots, the transference of our knowledge, familiarity of content, depending if it's a family home provider or a center provider. There are rules that we use from both of those aspects, and so some of it is going to be familiar for both audiences, and how we can draw on that knowledge to really build from there with the updates. There's going to be some highlights on variances, what that might look like, to have some examples that people can refer to as they're considering a possible variance or waiver for their program. Section 3 is all about communication. So what the FAQ sessions are going to look like, what that feedback loop, once you put in a question, what happens and how do you get the answer back. Really looking at a customized approach for our audiences, if it's an ECAP program or a school district, if it's just a center provider, how we can streamline the communication efforts so that you're only listening to the things that might matter the most to you. And again, the deep dive education that we'll drill down a little bit more in another time together of what the monthly sessions and content delivery will be looking like. The validation reports, if you were involved in negotiator rulemaking, really taking a look at the data collection that we are starting right now as part of our pilot, and how we can collect information about the rules and how it looks in the field, and providing some reports and results to you all in a very active way. The awareness guide, just as an overview, will be fluid. There will be some things that are static and kind of a one and done information source, but also things that we'll be adding to as we're continuing to gather data and updating reports to give current information. The next slide is section 4. That really highlights what kind of resources are available, what supports are out there to help each of us do the jobs that we need to do every day. One of the things that we collected during negotiator rulemaking, we call a parking lot list, that had a variety of items that the department either committed to or ideas were brought forward about resource kind of options, training things that were important that came up within our discussion, and how we can look at these items and actually put them into play. So we will be looking at all of those, resource lists and training options that we want to put out there. One of the things that we definitely heard is access to particular training opportunities and how we can open up the boundaries on some of those issues. There were new forms that came up as a result of our rules, and where those might be found, and having those available for people early on to take a look at that to see how they can access those. The exclusive handbook, one of the things that we thought would be helpful in particular environments would be to look at, I might be very well versed in the current rules now, what are just the rules that I need to know to prepare myself for August 2019. Again, our implementation date is August 2019, and so what can we do ahead of time to have that prepared? So we're customizing an approach of, what are updates for center and what are updates for family home as a result of the rules that have been filed. Heather's decision chart is, and we have it posted now, but it really is looking at the rules through negotiated rulemaking, the research and her review that occurred, if there were decision changes from negotiated rulemaking language, why those occurred, and being able to see that all in one document so that people can take a look at the informed decision making there. And then also the fiscal impact and the studies that were done for those rule changes and what that might mean on the ground for costs associated with a particular rule. Again, each section would have a one-pager summary so that you get a quick snapshot of what might be contained within that particular section as a quick guide of what is available for you in that section. Again, the Alignment Awareness Guide is not to replace the interpretive guidebook. So we will be working on the interpretive guidebook and collaborating with our stakeholders as well as internal staff and subject matter experts and look at that once the rules are live to develop that. That will be a very important piece, but this is not to replace that. The guidebook will be something very different than what we have as an online resource at this point. And I think that is everything. And Suzanne, I don't know if questions have been typed in, but I think we can take some questions at this point. That's a lot of information, and we may have some ideas or questions or thoughts from folks out there.
Suzanne, this is Luba. If there are questions, can you please read them aloud? And we will wait and give people a chance to type as we're taking questions, your questions, so you will have to type them.
Hi, Luba. This is Rachel. I don't see any questions right now.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. So please process the information. Let us know, Debbie or I, if there are questions. We would like to let you know that the next stakeholder meeting will be on August 31st, where we will kind of more precisely look at the information that's been shared today with you and start figuring out the main communication messages and education messages that we will be delivering to the community. So we hope that at the next webinar, we will bring you more detailed information based on the conversation that will take place in the next week. So thank you for joining us today. Go ahead.
One quick question came in. Is there still going to be a parent-guardian involvement?
So definitely parents are a stakeholder group that will be impacted by implementation of those rules. Yes, we would definitely involve parents into the conversation, and we will go through their through the parent group that used to be part of the Department of Early Learning, and now it's a part of the Department of Children, Youth, and Families. So we will go through that particular group. We will need to figure out who will be backbone organization that will help parents to be organized and have their voice in the process. And I believe that Debbie will be in contact with some of the parents that have been a part of the negotiated rulemaking to take some to take some role in developing video information. Debbie, do you want to talk about it a little bit more?
Yes, that's correct. We will be reaching out. We've got a participant list for interviewing and filming, and really a combination of negotiator rulemaking, a variety of providers, and a few agency individuals, but really trying to get the message out from different perspectives from a provider's perspective, how they're preparing for the rules, from a parent's perspective, how they were able to be involved in the negotiated rulemaking process and what that means for them from a parent's perspective, and again, the agency involvement and the investment of negotiated rulemaking. So we will have a variety of audiences that will be connecting in the video teasers.
So just stay tuned. We will be. Yeah, stay tuned. We will be in contact. We just need to again figure out who will be backbone organization, who will help us to organize it, and we will probably communicate more through the parent group. Sorry, Rachel, go ahead.
No, it's okay. There's a few more questions. The next question, can you describe what the field test of the alignment looks like?
What, Rachel, did you say the field test?
Yes.
Okay. So one of the things that we are working on, if I'm understanding the question correctly, we are actually, as part of a pilot, and we have some wonderful providers who have graciously volunteered to work with us as part of our playground of applying the 300 rule and taking a look at what that means. And, you know, we're discovering things along the way of guiding the training of what we're seeing out in the field, and then also being able to share with providers the outcome of what that might look like if it were live in August 2019. So this whole next year we will be practicing, if you will, and really beginning that education process. So the alignment pieces, again, we are connected with Early Achiever and ECAP programs to take a look at training efforts that will be aligned together, and how we can, you know, use those training sessions to cover a variety of audiences for preparation for all. I'm not sure if that answers the question, but if we need to clarify more, please do, whoever asked the question.
Okay, and one last.
Before we'll go to the last one, I just would like to add to David's answer. So, as you can imagine, there's a lot of work that licensing needs to do in order to start implementation of new rules. So this is what David is referring to. So it's a lot of licensing work, and providers graciously agreed to volunteer in order to allow licensors to pilot monitoring processes and go through the field training for licensors in order to learn how to monitor and how to provide compliance oversight based on the refined rules. So this is what kind of is taking place right now and continue to take place through this year as a part of the training process for licensors. So it's what David partially referring to. Thank you, Rachel. I think we're ready for the next one.
Okay. When does the alignment guide become available, and are any parts open now?
Great question. We are looking to, and I'm sorry I forgot to mention that, we are looking to post the alignment awareness guide in November. And then we will have the entire first section completed by then, and there will be different sections as placeholders that will be coming along the way. But we have quite a few documents right now that we have either completed and will be available November as well. So as I had mentioned earlier, it will be a growing document. We will continue to update and keep it current, whether it be reporting current information for our data analysis, but also, you know, we're hoping to hear from stakeholders and community, any of our licensing staff, what else would be helpful. So the awareness guide really is meant to serve as a resource. And so if we have, you know, inadvertently forgotten something, or that you are creatively thinking of some other things that would be helpful, please send those in, because this is not a static framework at all. We want to continue to grow this so that it's a good support for all. So November is the goal for posting the alignment awareness guide. The first section 1 will be done as the historical and resource guide of our journey together, and then certain components in 2, 3, and 4 will be available, but again, we'll build on it as we go.
And also a part of the guide will be QA, and its QA will be a process that will be ongoing. So we would like to hear from you also if there's some questions, some comments, some concerns, some ideas. So then we will be able to collect it and answer to the whole community versus a particular person or particular entity which is asking those questions. So it will be a part of the guide, the QA process. So if you do have any questions, comments right now, it's fine to submit them to DBOI right now. So then we will be able to start the QA process sooner than November, but again, then embed it into the guide. Any other questions?
Okay. There is. Is Dell expecting a lot of variance requests? I noticed it was listed, and I'm thinking NRM participants must have discussed this. And if so, what are the variances expected?
Good question. So just to remind everyone who is on the phone, the variance is one of the rules that is now or will be a part of the refined subset of the rules that will go to place next August. So variance is giving an opportunity to provider to be in compliance in a different way. So it's different from a waiver because the waiver is allowing the provider to be out of compliance, while variance allowing the provider to be in compliance in a different way, which could be more relevant to specific programmatic requirements, let's say ECAP or Head Start performance standards, or specific certain requirements, whether it be school district type of program or infrastructure requirements that already exist in a school district system. So because of that, there is let's say, a clash of authorities in some cases, or some adjustments could be needed in order to allow programs to be in compliance, but in a different way. So this is what variance is. Variance could be kind of an overarching variance. I will give you an example, and I don't know for sure is it or not, but it's kind of my thinking right now. Like, for example, professional qualification requirements for Head Start staff. Head Start performance standards are much higher than licensing requirements in many content areas, including qualification requirements. So as we all know, there's BA qualification requirements for lead teachers, and there's associate degree qualification requirements for assistant teachers, and so on. So because of that, they already by the qualification requirements of the Head Start beyond the requirements, so they're much higher compared to the licensing requirements. So then it means that it's no need probably for the licensing to have additional oversight of this particular part of compliance for the Head Start grantees. So because of that, it's kind of a variance could be granted to all Head Start grantees. So licensing will not specifically monitor for qualification requirements of Head Start grantees. By definition of the performance standards, we will assume that all the staff already meeting Head Start standards, and if not, then we will be informed about it. So this is kind of an example of the variance that could be applicable for all Head Start grantees. There also could be some variance that could be applicable for specific sites. For example, some school district sites may not have playground fencing organized in a way that licensing is requiring, but there could be a health and safety plan around it, how particular school district program is ensuring that children are health and safety despite the fact that fencing is not organized in a particular way. Or that for the child care provider who probably may not have, in an urban setting, may not have a playground and consistently go into the community playground. So that's how it could be by variance versus by waiver, because the playground situation will not be anyhow changed for the life of this particular program being in existence. So then it's an idea or a possibility of the specific to the site variance. currently we are in conversation with ECAP and Head Start about the variants that could be applicable for all in a unified way or specific to a particular site, as well as we have a conversation with the school district on the same topic. So we kind of analyzing what type of issues each of those programs and settings are experiencing, and where it could be a waiver situation, where it could be variance situation, where it could be change of the process situation. So this is what is happening around variance. Any other questions?
Luba, can you clarify what you mean by organized in a particular way regarding the playground?
So what I mean that, let's say it's an active supervision, I can share with you how it could be done how I've been doing it in my practice. Like, for example, you can use cones and put yellow cones around particular play area on the playground where children will be playing during their time outside. So they will not go to the other parts of the playground in the school district setting. So it could be organized just kind of, you put in a fencing, but in a kind of a virtual way, and explaining to the children that this is the area where we will play and we will not go beyond those yellow cones or orange cones, whatever you use. I saw different type of approaches to how to establish kind of a fence type of structure, invisible type of fence structure in number of different ways. Different programs approaching it differently, and it's why it needs to be a health and safety plan that will be written with explanation how program will make sure that despite of there is no fence, the program will keep children safe and healthy, and then submit it to the department, and department will make a decision and work with a particular program. I hope it's kind of giving you some ideas how it could be handled.
Luba, so if the school districts can use cones, can family homes and centers also use the cones?
So I don't know about the cone structure, but definitely if you would like to, if you family home provider or center provider, you would like to explore a possibility to approach your playground areas differently compared to how it's directly written in the rules, you absolutely more than welcome to submit a variance or a waiver form, and then have a conversation with the department, and specific to your particular site, waiver or variance could be issued. I cannot say right now for sure because I don't know your specific conditions.
Okay, and I think there's one last question. After the comment period, DCUIF would publish the final rule, and she's wondering if this is it or if that is still to be published.
So the rule's been filed, and I'm more than sure that confusion is coming that the rule's been filed, but we are not implementing them immediately. So the rule's been filed. The public comments process concluded. The final decision's been made, and the rules are filed, and you can see them on the website as they filed. And we are not implementing them till next August because we all agreed that we will take this year, and it's kind of a part of negotiated rulemaking agreement. All the stakeholders agree that it's necessary to give us all a year to be educated on the new rules. So every single provider will be ready, and every single licensor will be ready. And this is what we're using this year for. So the rules are final. So now it's time for us to learn what they are and how to be in compliance with them.
And if I could add on just a little bit, Luba, to that also, if you do look at the rules on the legislative website, it will give you the details per WAC on the effective date. And so, as most of you remember, we had some adopted permanent rules that were under the 300 chapter that went live last year. Those have been folded into the new rules. So if you're looking at the 300, and we're going to work on some communication on this because we did have some confusion about which ones are live and which ones are not. So the adopted permanent rules are now rolled into the 300 chapters. Some of those are live and current right now. And then the full chapter goes into effect August 2019. So we're going to work on some communication both internally and externally to clarify that and make sure everyone's on the same page.
Are there more questions?
There is. One just came in. I'm concerned about the addition of the word class in the WAC on discrimination. I became aware of the change after a provider was told a licensor that under the new rules, the centers would be unable to limit subsidy spots under the new discrimination rules.
So
I
will
have that
suggest, go ahead.
I just was going to say, have that question in my queue. So we are going to research that a little bit more, but I did get an email concerning this. So we'll get back to the individual who posed the question and get that answer out.
Yeah, it's what I kind of been about to suggest because it's also a subsidy piece into it, so we need to investigate it. Any more questions?
I think that was it.
Okay, seems like it's a big interest in how we're rolling out the alignment process. So we will keep you updated. We will keep updating you every month. And I'm more than sure that the other content areas or other pieces as ECAP and early achievers will chime in soon. Please forgive us, and I'm asking for grace because we just transitioned to the DCYF. It's only a month and a half, so it's a lot to do. So probably like in a month, so 2 months, we will be better organized. But right now, information will come and probably not in full picture as you used to receive it, but we will be back with a full picture somewhere around October as again, all of the organizational structures will come to place. As you probably know, Kelly Bohannon now has a bigger role. She's overseeing all of the early learning programs. So there's been time that's been needed to hire a new ECAP administrator, and you will hear information about it soon. So those kind of technical, logistical steps that we need to put in place in order to present the whole progression information to you, which again, we will start doing as soon as October. So I just would like to apologize that today we're bringing a specific type of information versus the whole picture of the progression. Okay, thank you again for joining us today. If there are more questions, please send it to Debbie and I, and we will start collecting the QAs, so all of you will be able to see the answers and questions. So we will not, we will all be on the same page, how it's going and what type of comments we are gathering. Have a good weekend. The air is much better, so it's fine to be outside. Thank you.
Thank you.